I say it all the time, like experience is life's best teacher. The only truly way you're gonna know what you love to do is if you give it a real shot. We had Dion, we had all these things happening and people were like, Blenders, you guys are killing it. But backstage, I was being told, not good enough. Your numbers aren't there. We need more from you, we need more from you, we need more from you. So I was living two different lives. People ask me, what's the best skill in entrepreneurship? And I'm like, it's the ability to just figure it the fuck out no matter what.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to ALLSMITH. Today's guest is a true builder. He's a surfer at heart, an entrepreneur by action, and the founder of one of the most recognizable lifestyle brands on the planet. From selling sunglasses out of the backpack to building a global eyewear company, his empire is rooted in fun, in freedom, and bold execution. This episode is about vision, risk, resilience, and most importantly, staying playful while scaling something real. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ALLSMITH with Chase Fisher, the founder of Blenders Eyewear.
Quite the intro. Wow, appreciate that. All good. Thank you, man.
I feel like I can't help but bring a little bit of faith into this conversation because in doing my research on you and just observing kind of your experiences up until now, there's so many things that I would previously have called coincidences or connections. And it's like, we were meant for this conversation right now. And when we talk about like friends offline and the connections, San Diego State basketball, surf, lifestyle, peaks and valleys. I know you've gone through it a little bit with Blenders. I just can't help but lean into that and really show some gratitude and appreciation to have you here.
No, I really appreciate that, man. And it's funny you say that because just this last whole year, I've tried to get a lot more in touch with that.
Yeah.
You know, as you kind of scale and you get bigger and things in your life start to expand, and you always want to stay grounded. And kind of remember that like inner child in you, right? Of like the kid that you once was and now where you're at in life. And if you don't have that sort of that foundation, I think you kind of lose yourself in the process. And I've learned so much from just observing other people in my life, right? From relationships to businesses to founders to, you know, things that you want, things that you don't want. Like there's just so much observation that you can have, that you can learn from. And I've been kind of a fly on the wall in a lot of areas like that.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's interesting that you say that because we've come to a season in my life where we're packing up my childhood home. We're getting ready to sell it later this year, and I brought my beautiful wife up to the LA area, and we got the U-Haul, and we went through memory lane. The pictures, the smells, the trophies, the failures, the relationships, all the things. And you put something up that I grabbed here that really like spoke to my heart, which is where I wanted to start our conversation today. Spending time going through childhood photos changed something in me. I look back at who I was before the performance, before the pressure, before feeling the need to prove anything. That perspective matters. And from the outside looking in, people would perceive Blenders Eyewear storefront on the beach, incredible success, great partnerships. People saw what you did with Deion Sanders. People have seen what you've done with SDSU basketball, amongst so many other things. And their perception would just be like, oh, this guy's got it figured out. But the fact that all that noise kind of created some clutter in between the ears, and you're like, no. I need to zoom out even more now, maybe from a drone perspective, and realize that there's beauty in the childlike mindset before life gets a hold of us. What was that like for you going through childhood photos, and how did that kind of unlock some magic in you?
Yeah, I think for me, it was like I was a kid going in a million different directions as a kid. And I wasn't the smartest kid. I wasn't the tallest kid. I wasn't the brightest kid in the classroom. And I really shined outside the classroom. I really shined by just being wildly curious about the world. And, you know, as an entrepreneur, that's one of the most important things that you need. You need to be curious. That's the only way you're going to consistently learn. And so just being that kid, getting in touch with that free-spirited Chase, that young little bright-colored kid going in a lot of different directions who was just like enjoying life, right? Like before all the noise, before all the technology, just, I was telling him earlier, it was just like the experience that we had as kids. We're the last generation that got to really enjoy the human experience at the most pure level, where it was just presence. It was just fun. It was just like learning about the world. And, as you go through life, you get more jaded, right? And there's just a lot more experiences that can taint your reality or change your perspective on things. And just getting in touch with the kid that you once were, right? Like we're all kind of just older versions of our younger selves, So for me, it's just kind of reminding myself that I like to have fun. I'm, like what matters in my life is adventure, is health, is building fun relationships, and not losing sight of that. Because I think those are things that people lose, when you kind of get to a certain level. All you think about is what you have and money and all the wrong things. And I think people get so caught up in that, where you kind of just, life starts small, and there's beauty in starting small. And yeah, I like to just like get in touch with that, because it feels like a different lifetime ago. It really feels like a different lifetime ago.
One of my favorite questions is, who were you before life got a hold of you? Before you had to put on that mask? And Jim Carrey talks about it. He goes, depression is when you're wearing the mask or playing the role of an avatar to fit into the box of the expectations of the human performance, but it's not in alignment with your head, your heart, and your soul. And when you think about it, especially as an entrepreneur, when those three things are in line, that's when you find the beauty of flow. And when you're in flow, you're like Bruce Lee, man. You're like water. And water is beautiful. There's a reason why people gravitate to the beach. They gravitate to lakes. There's something to that aligns with a human. And I think Henry David Thoreau said it really well. He said, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. To the onset, to the modern consumer, that might sound woo-woo a little bit, but I challenge you to sit with that a little bit and just think, hey, when I make this decision, somebody cut me off in traffic. I can choose to be upset, hang on my horn, speed up around them, give them the finger, cut them off back, or I can choose to be like, hey, they probably had a tough morning. They woke up late. They spilled coffee on themselves. Their digestion may have been off on their morning shit.
Yep.
They're in a rush to get to X, Y, and Z place. I'm actually just going to choose to give them grace and recognize that they're a human just like me.
Yeah.
That's a spiritual connection that tinkers with psychological perspective. And what's so fascinating to me, Chase, is like that's a small microcosm of how that one decision can set the energetic tone for the rest of your day.
100%. And I think we've lost that as a society. We fully lost that because we're so emotionally heightened. We're filled with anxiety. We're filled with paranoia. We're filled with comparison. And a lot of that comes from just all the technology, all the stimulation, all the information overload, where people have no sense of presence and truly slowing down and really just getting in touch with that, because I think that's just the American culture. We're just it's hustle culture, it's grind, it's go, 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 go. If you can't service me, I don't give a fuck about you, and we've just lost that sort of that core relational being to respect others. And you never know what people are going through, man. You never know,
It's one of my favorite line in the human experience. I got to get it tattooed at some point. Seek to understand. Like, ask better questions rather than making assumptions. My dad used to say, like, making assumptions, making an ass out of you and me. Very, very famous, very like cliche. But at the same time, when you actually think about that, it's like, whoa, I'm making an assumption as to their behavior or what they're going through. Like, most issues or problems can be solved with a gentle conversation. And sometimes tone gets lost via email, via text. But I like to operate and assume that people are API, assuming positive intent. And then it's okay to be disappointed. I don't go in with expectations. I go in, like you said, with curiosity within whatever conversation, negotiation. But I also think there's a humility around the malleability in that. And what I mean is, you might be on one end of the spectrum, I might be on the other side, but I can't see what you're seeing. So if you paint that picture for me and I paint my picture for you, we actually realize there's a lot more in common than there are differences.
Yep.
But modern day, especially politically, you see it in business, like comparison of like, oh, that's a competitive brand. We can't do stuff. Da, da, da. It's like at the top, and you know this now in getting there, there's way more way more collaboration than competition. And that's an interesting ideology, because you would think like highly competitive, masculine, raw, but it actually doesn't operate that way. I mean, you can even relate that to the stock market. Like, all those people are communicating with each other behind the scenes. Hey, you do this, you do that. And all of a sudden it's like all tides rise.
Totally. And we just, as humans, tell ourselves these stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's, we like live in our heads a lot, and growing up as a kid, like I had such a wild imagination. It's one of like my greatest strengths, but also like one of my greatest weaknesses, because you tell yourself these stories of like what you think is actually happening, but is that the reality of the situation? Is that what they're thinking? And just like you said, like meeting people where they are, asking the right questions, and finding a path through to work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So much of business and so much of life is learning how to communicate, collaborate, and work with people. And if you can't do that, there's going to be a lot of challenges in your life.
Sure.
To create any sort of connection.
Why I have this here, dream until it's your reality. Children dream.
We're dreamers.
And I think when you look at that, it's like they're in a sandbox and they're building this sandcastle. They're not thinking to themselves, how do I monetize this sandcastle? How do I get the real estate for this space where the sand is? How do I position it exactly where it's the most expensive place in relation to the sun or the edge, or maybe safer, closer into the middle of the playground where it's not close to the fence, where there can be strangers involved? Maybe there's wind over there. I want to stay away from the wind, so the stand. You know what I mean? Like, that ideology doesn't land on a child. And Rick Rubin describes it best in his relationship with helping so many artists in the world. And he goes, you have to dig into that inner child, and you have to do it for you. If you're trying to do it to satisfy everybody else's expectations, you're going to fail every single time. It's not granting yourself the grace to navigate the things that are out of your control. You're trying to control all the externals.
Yep.
And then, as a byproduct of like putting all your focus, energy, and attention over there, as you described earlier, we lose it right here.
Yeah.
And that's when it's just like, riding a big wave and you're just smashed into the sand and left and right, and board hits you in the head and you're just like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I know. And I think that's like, as the kid, that's who you are, right? Like, you're living life, you're enjoying it. You're finding out who you are. You're finding out what you like. You're finding out what you don't like. Like, so much of it is just building your identity, and kind of going down little rabbit holes of curiosity, and you get bored, you come out, you do something different. And, and for me, that was so much of my childhood, right? And that plays so much into my life now. And I never want to lose that. So part of being curious is getting in touch with that, and always being a continuous learner, always wanting to, grow your knowledge and your skill set and your wisdom, and learning from new people. And all we know is what we know. And how do you keep learning from life without the experience or that curiosity? It's impossible.
Sure.
So
I want to peel back the layers a little more on that, because so much of the world views failure as like, oh, that's where I stop. I'm supposed to pivot. And it's a feeling, right? And like you and I both know, feelings will come and go. But there's something about being in pursuit of learning, knowing very well this doesn't feel good, but I know that if I can create the systems and the operations, I have this internal belief and risk tolerance that it's going to pan out in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not according to my plan. It might not be the $1 million company, but I might meet the right person, serve or impact a lot of people, make certain growth, angles. Sometimes we don't see the benefit. So monetization isn't always money. It's sometimes who you become in pursuit of the thing. How did you kind of reframe that in the beginning? And how did your childhood impact that? Because what I'm hearing is like your parents did a freaking awesome job. And it sounds like your headspace was really formulated based on that curiosity, but the willingness to pursue learning and failure.
Great question. So my parents divorced when I was about 4, and just messy household, right? 2 parents that just didn't have the hard conversations up front, believed in different parenting styles, got married, had kids, and then the whole thing fell apart. So I was going week on, week off, 1 week with my dad, 1 week with my mom. My mom was typing a court reporting machine. She was in depositions all day, you know, like in court all day. She taught me discipline. She taught me all the manners, all the, you know, the community aspect of being on a team. My dad was an entrepreneur. He started his own business. So wherever there was internet, he can make money. So 2 completely different lifestyles. My mom was working so hard and getting paid so little, yet my dad was building his business. So I got probably 2 different sides to, I probably got the best of both worlds between my parents. But when I was about 6, or not 6, about 7 or 8, my mom noticed that I just learned a lot slower than most people, and realized that I needed special care when it came to schoolwork. I wasn't comprehending when I was reading. I wasn't able to do math. I was testing really low. And she said, we need we need to put some more eyeballs on his learning, because he's not learning like other students. So I was placed into special education. I had a terrible stutter. I was in speech pathology classes. I was basically like put in special ed, like truly special ed. And so my confidence as a kid was like, that was what I was believing. I was believing I was stupid. I was believing that if you want to be, the only way to be successful is if you get good grades. I wasn't getting good grades. Like, I fucking struggled in the classroom. So I needed to build my confidence outside the classroom. And that's where I thrived, right? And so I was social. I had a lot of friends. I learned how to surf. I learned how to get sponsored by companies without winning contests. Like, I was kind of finding my superpowers outside the classroom. But while all my friends were going to the cool classes, I was going down the hall and placing special ed. I was put on all kinds of medication as a kid. So I had a chip on my shoulder to prove to myself that I can do something bigger and greater. And I knew that I was capable. I just didn't know what that would be. So the childhood, you know, all that childhood adversity really gave me the fortitude and, you know, the skill set and just the belief in myself that I was destined for something bigger. And that's why I get in touch with that childhood, because it was so much struggle. And the story of success only lands if there was struggle that goes with it, you know? And so I think that's why the story of Blenders and me is so powerful, because most students are like, damn, he's the kid that was like dyslexic. He's the kid that was in special education, and, you know, he was able to do it, and so can I. And so that's what I love getting in touch with, because that's where the sauce is. That's where the humility is. That's where all the relatability is, you know, not using that as like, poor me, but using that as a way to like, yo, look, I wasn't the gifted kid. I started this thing from nothing. I was special ed, dyslexic, learning all these things, you name it. My ability to succeed came at a loss compared to yours. Yeah. You know?
I really appreciate you sharing that. It gives great context. How did you reframe that? Right? Because there's the ability to go down that path. You're listening to the quote unquote experts. You're taking the medication. You're doing the protocol that's assigned with the social programming. What was the escape strategy there? Or in your mind, where you're like, hey, trust the process, right? Because you could trust that process and it could lead you down a completely different path than, hey, I'm going to trust this-ish, knowing that at some point I'm going to take a U-turn and pursue something else. What was the navigation of that experience like?
Yeah, there's so many moments in your life that when you go back, you realize like, wow, that moment, like my life could have went so many different directions, right? And when one door closes, another opens. And, you know, for you, you're a ball player. You played D1 SDSU ball. Like I played ball too, but I was cut sophomore year in high school. I thought I was really fucking good. Apparently I wasn't. I got cut. My dad was infuriated. But what that did was that redirected my energy into surfing. So I was like, okay, I'm not good to be on the basketball team. I thought I was really good. I'm going to pour all my energy into surfing. And that allowed me to kind of like take on a new approach of like, now surfing is just me. I'm not on a team. It's just me. How do I make this successful? So I started kind of stacking wins outside the traditional norm. Back then you needed to win contests to get sponsored. I was a popular kid. I was able to spread a lot of brand awareness through friends. I was putting stickers on street signs. I was a kid going to surf contests, collecting all the shit, and then passing it out all over campus. I made that kind of part of my influence, right? So I was getting in Surfer magazine without even winning a contest. My buddy was the best surfer in school, and he's like, how'd you do this? I got in Surfer magazine before he did, and he was winning every contest. So I started to see that you can win you can win in a different way in life. And my whole life was different from day one. So reminding myself that like I was that bright colored kid that loved the color orange that nobody wanted to wear, but that was my way of standing out.
That's
you
sick.
know? So,
I love to hear that too, because surfing is hard in the sense of like you enter a basketball court, it's the same court, same dimension, same height of the hoop. There's not as much variance, but you get out into the ocean and it's different just about every time. And so creating that connection, the ability to paddle out and find the appropriate channels, feeling the contrast of this inevitably changing surface and conditions and sunshine and the variables, who's going to be in your way, who's got a chip on their shoulder and cussing you out for taking the wave that they wanted to take. There's a competitive standpoint, there's intuition, there's reading waves, there's understanding the energy of the people that are out in the water with you. And then you get into the gear. It's like, what's the right wetsuit? What's the appropriate amount of wax on the board? What's the appropriate size board? It sounds to me through observational learning, through experiencing, like at no point did you feel like you had a fixed mindset. You always had this malleability of, hey, I might not fit in this box, but maybe I can go play in this sandbox over here. To me, that's truly thinking outside of the box, which is, hey, I don't have to stay in this sandbox. There's other sandboxes that I can go play in.
100%. And so much of life is experience. So much of learning, like I say it all the time, like experience is life's best teacher. The only truly way you're going to know what you love to do is if you give it a real shot, is if you try with your own hands, you know? And I think in this day and age, like that's lost, man. You know, so many people are learning from the wrong people, from the people that have actually not done what they want to do. And, you know, experience is the best way to kind of learn from that. You know what I mean? So there's only so much wisdom you can absorb, but until you actually go out and get on the field and play the game, like you don't really know what you're capable of.
Yeah, so well said. I'm a year and 5 or 6 months into entrepreneurship. And I played the game for a really long time of I'll be ready when. If I just, stash enough cash and, learn the business enough and figure out payroll processing and learn lead generation and branding and say the right words and get the right team and get the investment and do the thing, I'll be ready.
Yep.
I probably was 7 years a little late on where I think now looking back, it makes sense, but it's always like a mystery looking forward and science looking back. And it's funny because in a year and change, dude, the amount that I've learned through the majority of my fuck ups of saying the wrong thing, the wrong email, showing up at the wrong time. Like, dude, I could go down the rabbit hole of, before we even got into a podcast studio, I had the wrong microphone, the wrong camera, the lighting was bad. I didn't understand how to do podcast sponsors or ad reads or anything. And I actually wrote it down. I thought it was like...
I love that though, man. I love that because there's like so much of this is just figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
It's like people ask me, what's the best skill in entrepreneurship? And I'm like, it's the ability to just figure it the fuck out no matter what.
Yes.
That's it.
And here's the thing that's interesting. In the first 5 or 6 months, everything was a big problem, dude. The amount of anxiety, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to pay that bill, or, that invoice fell through, that person's credit card did this. Like everything is so big.
Yep.
And I mean, it was funny. Like my wife runs out this morning. She goes, hey, we forgot to take the trash cans out. I was like, baby, we did it. It's all good. But it's just it's funny to see in reflection strategy and meditation with the new integration of prayer, my energy just kind of is just problems are part of the process. I don't view problems as negative anymore. I view them as opportunities. And I'm curious how that framework worked for you and how the onset and the start of Blenders was for you.
Yeah, I mean, same. I mean, I'm cut from the same cloth as you, man, right? Like I was trying to perfect the sunglass before launching.
Yeah.
I spent 7 months trying to make this, reinvent the sunglass. And the head of entrepreneurship at San Diego State was like, what are you doing? Stop wasting your time. Just show up on March 13th, Entrepreneur Day. Just show up with a product. And there's the saying that like, if your product's perfect, you waited too long to launch.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so true. I spent so much time trying to be so ready and this and that. And like, I was just burning wasted calories, right? Like just jump in and figure it out from there. But again, you're telling yourself the story. You have to have it all figured out. Right. And that's a trap. That's a big, big, big trap. And you jump in and you commit to it. And then you just kind of figure it out from there. It's one day at a time. Very easy to get overwhelmed. It's very easy to let that inner voice kind of consume you, tell you that like, this is not going to work. And, as it should, right? Like why should you feel like you should succeed if you have no experience doing it? You got to earn that. Right. And so much of those early days are building that fortitude, like harnessing that inner voice, like passing those test days that you're like, I'm going to quit. This is ridiculous. Right. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, like you kind of realize like entrepreneurship is just a game of endurance. Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to win. You're trying to outlast.
And it's a game with yourself, right? You're not building a business. You're building the biggest, baddest version of you. Mm-hmm. That's all you're doing. Right. And it can be an unrelenting nightmare at times. And a lot of times it is, but it could be the most rewarding journey and the most fulfilling and the biggest self-discovery journey you can ever go on. Yeah. Right. And entrepreneurship gives you a direct reflection of what you're truly made of. You don't really know that until you actually jump in and commit.
It's so true, man. I thought I was being like an entrepreneur, kind of running a business underneath the umbrella of somebody else's business, but I was probably the version at that time of a wantrepreneur, where I had the safety, but I kind of had a little bit of freedom and leash and risk tolerance. And fully jumping in, it's also funny because Chris Williamson talks about that lonely chapter. Oh. And I think every real entrepreneur knows that, right? Where you're like, I've got to do this thing. It's not that I like want to do this thing. I have to see this thing out. And nobody really understands that. Your old friends are kind of like, oh, you don't relate to us anymore. You're not showing up to the thing. Or in my case, like you're not doing the same CrossFit workouts with us anymore. And I'm also like battling imposter syndrome of like, hey, I'm not really good enough to hang out at that table yet either. And so there's this like middle ground of like, I have this idea, I have this passion, I'm full of piss and vinegar. 4 out of 7 days, I'm like, won't shut up about it. And then 3 out of 7 days, I'm like, I suck. I don't know how to figure this out. Nobody cares until I make it. And when I do make it, they're also not going to care about the failures. They're just going to care about what the thing does for them.
Yep.
And it's this story that, sure, a little bit is like what we tell ourselves. And I used to develop like this victim energy around that of like, nobody understands. That's like the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
But then you're like, whoa, how cool is that? That I'm like going through this thing. I think you described it perfectly with eloquent words of you're not building a business. You're building the most badass version of you, which is then going to positively impact so many people at the right time.
Exactly, man. And that changes drastically over the journey, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, especially at the early days, like, building a business from nothing, right? Like entrepreneurs are people that are taking an idea and putting it into the world, bringing something that didn't exist, right? And we're not reinventing the sunglass. We're just making a better remix. We're making a better mousetrap. And having to remind yourself day in and day out of like, okay, it's easy to think about the big picture and to get distracted, right? Like the vision is just this shiny little object in the distance. You can't see it. But what you can see is the next, like the one day in front of you, the next day. And so learning how to just fight through day in and day out and believing in yourself and buying yourself another day. Like that's what the early days are about. And then it's about, oh, wow, okay, now we have people that are applying to work for us and they want to be part of this journey with us. Now your why is about these people are putting food on the table for their families. Like they have to pay the rent. It starts to become bigger. And then the ownership of that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it's enough to crater you, just mentally, right? Mm-hmm. And it consumes your life and it exposes your life in a way that shines a big fat magnifying glass on everything you do. Mm-hmm. It controls your mood, it controls your happiness, it runs your life. That's why I say it can be an unrelenting nightmare. And so much of this day and age, people don't understand that side of it. Yep. People just see the glitz and the glory. They see the headlines, they see the $100 million valuations. Like everybody's like flaunting this success, and it's painting a false reality of what the journey really entails. And so like when people go out and try and do it themselves and they fail on day one, they expect to have it in a week. And it's like, dude, you know, like this takes a immense amount of time. You want to build something extraordinary in life, it takes extraordinary amounts of work.
Yeah.
So
especially in a modern day world that's creating this image of comfort. We had Michael Easter on the show, who's the author of The Comfort Crisis, and he gave me some very unique perspective. What have you thought about trying to just be with your pain rather than practicing the continual art of escapism? What if, hey, this pain is there. Notice it. Rather than like punting it out the door, learn from it. What does it feel like? What's its texture? What's its tone? Why is this particular experience causing that pain? What can it teach me? Is it something that I should be with for a long time, or is it something that I should just have a quick cup of coffee and get out? And I think there's an interesting psychology around that, because most people see pain and they want ibuprofen, they want caffeine, they want escapism, they want to shift their lenses, literally. Hey, I don't want to feel the sun in my eyes that way. I'm going to put on these other glasses so it feels better in my eyes. It's an interesting thought process in relation to building something meaningful, because relationships, they can be painful. Hard conversations. You and I both know the most successful people in the world lean into hard conversations. And you know what they do? They establish roots. They establish everything underneath the iceberg, which is why that iceberg can stay planted. It's the bamboo, right? You and I are living the bamboo. You're just in a different spot in your journey, in the sense of you planted that thing and for 4 or 5 years, you don't see shit.
No.
And then in that 5th year, it's, whoa, this thing's growing feet at a time. But it's the concept of delayed gratification. At a time, like now, delayed gratification is like cool. It's talked about social media. Like we've got all kinds of thought leaders discussing it. So it's like a tool that people can put in their back pocket. But at a time where you're like, I don't fit in school. The social programming isn't working for me. I'm labeled this. I'm titled this. I'm forced to take medication. My parents don't really understand me yet. I'm sort of building friendships and relationships. Like you and I both know confidence is proof of concept that you are who you say you are. You can look over your shoulder and know like, hey, I've done the thing. So I have proof that I can continue to do the thing. How did you've said a few times, I am really good at building relationships and having fun and connecting with people. At what point did that click in between your ears of like, whoa, this could be an avenue for career development?
I think it was in the early days, right? I mean, like, again, like building that foundation, like pre-Blenders, I would go to surf contests and I would get tons of stickers. I'd take those stickers and then I put them in a photo book and I would take them to school and I would sell them in class. And I was making like $10 a day, $50 a week. And I was like, okay, I got something here, right? I was starting to build sponsorships and building relationships with brands when I was 15, 16 years old with no trophies. And I did that through just influence, through connections, through so like MySpace. I was popping off on MySpace back in the day.
MySpace was sick.
I was building my personal brand. You know, I was living the NIL lifestyle before NIL was even a thing, essentially. You know,
and you did it from a commission basis. In the sense of like you had to have proof of concept that like, hey, here are the people that I know. You're sharing your network.
Yeah. And
then here's the products and the stickers and the different things that can add color to your life.
But it was an unconventional way of doing it. It was a way that wasn't traditional. And that's what entrepreneurship is not traditional. It's the contrarian mindset to everything. It's the disruptive mindset, right? I didn't get to where I got to in life by following the rules. I got to where I got to by breaking every rule I knew existed and doing it differently. And so leaning into that has been just super, super valuable for me, because it kind of paid the foundational principles of brand building and fortitude and overcoming adversity and seeing the world in a different way, and knowing that like, all right, school is going to be difficult for me, but I'm really good over here. And being young and I was just fortunate to find that at a young age, and most people don't. And being naive going into the process, right? Like most people are always so worried about the end result. I was like, I'm confident. I know I can do this. But if everyone would have told me how hard it was actually going to be, I wouldn't have done it, because like I would have psyched myself out, you know?
The Trident family taught me something really important this last year.
that we are all a bundle of stories, both good, bad, and everything in between. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. I start my day with the Sweet Cream Cold Brew as I am prepping my mind and body for fitness, service, coaching, and podcasting. With various locations in San Diego, they offer over 14 nitro cold brews and a variety of specialty drinks. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from the Keto Bakery. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code ALLSMITH to take your coffee experience to the next level.
Yeah. What's coming to mind is enduring hate is the pathway to success. Because when you are the black sheep and you're going against the grain, that is disruptive into the headspace of most common people. They're like, why is this guy special? Why does he talk that way? Why is he doing this thing? Why is he not following the rules? Just follow in line, Chase. Like then you won't be sent to the principal's office and whatever other repercussions. Did you ever think about the potential punishment that came with some of these things? Or were you so focused on like, this is fun, I'm creating a vibe, I'm creating energy, I'm creating a connection, I'm going to follow that voice? Or did you think a little bit around the concept of, hey, I'm going up to bat and like, yeah, I'm trying to hit a home run, but did you ever think about like, hey, I'm trying not to strike out?
I was just trying to figure out what path I was going to go on in life, and I think I took a lot of different paths, right? Like when Twister came out, I wanted to be a storm chaser. I was obsessed with weather. Oh, cool. When Entourage came out, I wanted to be a sports agent. I wanted to be Ari Gold.
Dude, that's my favorite show on the planet.
I wanted to be a pro surfer. I wanted to be a pilot. Like I wanted to be all these different things. And I just went down all these different rabbit holes and just kind of really discovered what I liked and what I didn't like. And, building something from nothing, you have to do a ton of shit that you suck at or that you don't want to do before you can do the stuff that you're really good at.
Sure.
And most people don't understand that, they want to do the fun stuff from day one. They want it to be easy. They want it to be all the things that light them up. But it's great. It's hard work. It's going to make you more frustrated than you've ever been. But, it's just what you sign up for when you're going on this journey. And if you can't endure that, it's not going to work for you,
Sure. Back in the day, the highs were high and the lows were low. There's peaks and valleys. You know this. What was the lowest low for you? Like, was it, living underneath a freeway overpass, not sure if you can afford top ramen that day? What were some of the lows for people to visually have some imagery to understand that it's not all rainbows and sunshine?
Oh man. So in college, I was kicked out of the dorms freshman year. I got singled out by my RA. She sent out a bunch of photos of me drinking on Facebook, and they kicked me out of the dorms. I didn't tell my parents. How could I? I'm going to college. I want to make them proud. And hey, mom, hey, dad, I got kicked out of the dorms. Thanks for supporting me. I didn't tell them. Next semester, I made another bad decision. I made a bad decision. I stole a book from the bookstore. I got suspended, and I got kicked out of school for a semester. I thought I didn't belong at San Diego State. I thought I wasn't worthy. That I did deserve, but early on in college, I had to kind of overcome that adversity. The kid that was kicked out, the kid that was told he didn't belong, the kid that was in special ed, maybe I didn't belong at San Diego State. Maybe I wasn't worthy of being that guy, I fought my way back. I graduated in 4.5 years. I took summer school. I learned from that mistake. And then I started Blenders, and I went all in on that. And there was a lot of low moments in those early days, many, many days, I had a lot of holy shit moments that were I don't ever want to have that experience again. So I'm going to make sure this works no matter what. Mm-hmm. One of those experiences was at GNC. 6 months into Blenders, things were rough. We weren't making any sales. I needed a second job. I was doing surf lessons on one side, but that was seasonal. So I needed a second job. So I went to GNC. I got a job as a sales associate. I walked in on my first day and I was wearing black slacks and a white shirt. And my GM says, your shoes aren't shined, your pants are wrinkled, and your shirt's wrinkled. Go home, shine your shoes, iron your shirt, and when you get back, you got to sell two vitamin packs on your first shift because everyone is required to sell 2 vitamin packs. He hands me my papers. I walk out. I call my business partner, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck what this takes. We're making this work no matter what. And I never walked back in. And that was the moment that I was like, I didn't go to San Diego State. I didn't graduate college to have that experience ever again. And I never want my employees to ever experience that.
Wow.
So I use that as like that internal punch in the gut, which every single entrepreneur has to have. You have to be humbled. You have to have that punch in the gut to remind you, to kick you into high gear, to make sure that you never, like, zero option mentality.
Yeah. I call it NFC, no fucking choice.
No fucking choice. And at that point I was like, whoa, that was my first big reality check of like, this is going to work no matter what. And I stood by that, you know?
That's so cool.
So I've had a lot.
Fear is a great motivator.
It's, you know, it's pressure, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Fear can drive a lot of people into the ground, or it can drive you, it can give you a lot of internal motivation.
Yeah, that's dope.
But there was a lot of those experiences over the journey, you know?
Your tone switched there. I felt like the passion. I felt
yeah, you unleashed a little trigger in me, man.
I like it.
That fire. Like,
yeah. Would you say that surf culture is not just a vibe, but it's a value system? When you're out there and you're out there for a long period of time, you're probably getting shit talked to you from other surfers. Like, you're frustrated the wave's not coming. Like, would you say, like, because that was such a big part of your up and coming, you're like, I'm going to take this fucking wave no matter what. I mean, there's a moment in taking waves, you have to commit. And you're like, I might eat shit. I might run into that dude over there, but I'm taking this wave no matter what.
100%. It's a great metaphor for life. It's a great metaphor for life of just like, look, some days you're going to wake up, it's going to be calm. Some days you're going to wake up, it's going to be blowing 40 miles an hour offshore and super windy, and the ocean's going to be super traumatic, and it's going to be tough and difficult. And that's life, right? Like, life is the ocean, and
Sure.
and surfing is commitment. It's you versus the world in entrepreneurship. It's you and the ocean, and when you're surfing, and there's a sense of humility, a sense of commitment, a lot of pride. The culture is a little bit, I think, tainted. You know, I think over the years I've come to like disassociate myself from surf culture more than actually associate myself with it. As a kid, I loved it because it was like my whole identity, and now I see it for what it is. Right? I think the act of surfing is beautiful, but I think the culture is pretty rough. You know, I respect the localism side of things. I respect the,
Sure.
you know, because there's a lot of brand lessons you can learn from that, like protect your peak, govern it, protect your brand, govern it, sort of thing. But
Spot on. We spoke to Shane Dorian a few months ago when he went down to CPI in Mexico and got a bunch of stem cells, and like, the dude's thriving now. He's jacked. He's really working on himself. His son is up and coming surfer too.
Jackson.
But there's something to the vibe of like Kelly Slater, Shane Dorian, Laird Hamilton.
These guys are hardcore.
And when you say hardcore though, what I think about is they're disciplined and they're convicted. And so they wake up in the morning and they're clean on their espresso. They like introducing like the Laird superfood or the different like healthy adaptogens. They take care of themselves. They do a lot of sauna and ice and breath work. They're sharing those experiences with community and products and brands. They operate at a slightly different frequency versus like the younger up and comers are kind of in more of like a party culture, like F it, we'll figure it out. Like, there are no rules. And like, yeah, there's no rules when you kind of play within the container of respect. When it branches outside of that, you're losing sight of the reps that the older generation have put in. And it's like, if you're humble enough, you can actually learn a lot from those people and ask great questions about Surfline and travel and Mavericks and Tavaru and the different places in Fiji and Portugal. I mean, I've heard that wave is insane.
Nazaré, nuts.
Yeah.
Spookiest wave on the planet.
Headed towards that big cliff. Like it's
that
just
big lighthouse.
Yeah.
Place is eerie.
Yeah. I've talked to a few people that like, dude, I almost died like heading towards that. It was insane. But the wave was just like, there was a feeling that they couldn't just reproduce.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And I mean, that's the beauty about surfing though. It's the sense of exploration, you know, you're constantly searching for that next best wave. And, you know, and I got to like remind myself, like, I'm on the wave of my life right now. This is the wave of my life. Like, this is the ultimate wave of my life. And, enjoy that, you know, ride it as hard as you can, have as much fun as you can, know that you're going to wipe out multiple times, or you're going to get back up and you're going to keep going back and you keep paddling and you're going to catch the next one. But yeah, I mean, it's been a huge foundational piece too, because I think in entrepreneurship, you need those foundational pieces to connect you to what you do.
Sure.
So many founders go off the fucking rails because they don't have a strong sense of friendship or a good community or things that really connect them to the work outside of chasing money and growth. Right. And I think that's so important to anything in life, right? Is you need those things that you can escape. You need those outlets. You need those things that kind of like bring you back to that inner child of just going out, surfing, having fun, enjoying it with your friends. Like those are so important.
You talked about that on your most recent post at the end of 2025 around how travel used to be escapism from the rat race, and now it's become perspective. And I very much relate to that. There's a trip that stands out tremendously in my headspace when I went down to Sayulita in Mexico and just had a very spiritual experience with yoga, with breath work, with local taco shops, and just seeing how families ran it and the authenticity of tequila and coffee and just feeling connected to the sunshine and the beach. I'm curious your thoughts and, some of the travel experiences that have flipped the script a little bit on perspective as opposed to escapism.
Great question, man. Yeah. I mean, travel for me, I love traveling. I love seeing different cultures and learning about different people and just different ways of life. And, we are very much in this bubble in America, right? Where it's just hustle. It's about success. It's about money. It's about status. It's about all these different things. And you go to a different culture like Europe, and you're like walking down the street and you just notice this sense of like presence that people have. You go to dinner here, you see everyone, 90% of people are on their phones. You go to dinner in Europe and everyone is just like having a conversation. They're waking up at 9, 8:30, going out, slowly getting their morning started. They're not waking up at 5:30. They're truly living a value system that makes sense to them, and you need that sense of perspective every once in a while, because there is more to life than this matrix that we're all in, or losing yourself in the process of chasing the next thing. We're always in pursuit of the next thing. And for me, that's been so as you're in a growth mindset to like grow your business, you lose yourself in that mindset, man, to where you're like, what am I actually chasing? I'm always so future focused, but I'm not actually present with this. And Europe has a sense of presence, and that is just like so like refreshing.
Part of the reason why I put this here.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, like, be where your feet are.
Be where your feet are.
And it's so simple, but it's so hard to practice sometimes.
It's so hard, man. And to truly unplug from it all. Like I've been a lot of places, man. And like I say it I say it often, but like the only place that I can actually think about if everything went to shit and if my website went down, the only place that I would be okay with that is if I was surfing in Tavarua.
Whoa. Brandon said the same thing. Do you know Brandon Lillard?
Yeah.
So he's one of my best friends. He actually comes in and trains with us. He's come back from shoulder surgery. But he said the same thing. And that's why he escapes there for like 2 to 3 months. It's just such a special place.
And you got to take that seriously, man. You got to take fun seriously. You got to take that because otherwise you're going to be miserable, And it's
How do you navigate the judgment of fun? Right? Like, it's something I've experienced a little bit in being a founder where, people will see my story and there's judgment, right? Like, you should be working or you should be doing this. But I think that's part of the digesting of hate early on, where it's like hate tells you that you're on the right path towards success. But how have you navigated that where everybody has all these expectations for Chase's life, but you have to be so in alignment with your value system and realizing when to push, when to pull, when it's the seasons for a sprint and when it's the seasons for rest?
Yeah, man. I mean, different seasons give you different things, right? I think when I go on a trip, it's Chase is going on a trip. He's going to have fun. Don't bug him, let him do his thing. And I think that's healthy for people to see that. It's good to set that example that like, I also take life seriously. I have fun. Everything in my life kind of like gives me energy in some sort of way. And at the end of the day, like what am I going to be smiling ear to ear from? Like at the end of this day, I'm smiling ear to ear because I went surfing or I got to hang out with friends, and just the smallest things bring me joy now, right? Like just cruising on the golf cart, just going to do a surf check, grabbing a coffee. Like to me, that's like just having fun, know?
I love that you said bring the corners of your mouth out by your ears. That's just a cool little like, you feel that. Like when you hear that, it's like hard not to do it.
Yeah, it's just kind of getting in touch with like those simple joys of life.
Sure.
You know, and I think I lose sight of that a lot, and it's easy to lose sight of that a lot. So, you know, and then the perspective of travel really helps you kind of paint that picture too. Like you're seeing how happy people are, and they're not chasing these goals and these targets and these product launches and these success metrics. They're just like truly living a great fulfilled life without all that. So like, you're like, wow, like they're so happy.
Sure.
People in Fiji are the happiest people in the world, and they have the least. And like, we're here and we're building all these things, and I have all these things, and but what is making me fulfilled with all this? Right. And, so much of that is like about how you pour it back into other people, and that changes over time. Right.
What's the famous ceviche in Tavarua in Fiji? Is it Krisampu? Or Krisampo? It's like a famous ceviche that I've heard that has a little bit of like coconut milk in it, combination of all these fresh fish and herbs.
Oh, I haven't had that yet.
Okay. Check that out. I've heard like 4 or 5 people tell me about it. And I'm like, can we find that here in San Diego? Yeah. But like, they're like, nah, it's not quite the same out here.
Okay. I'll have to check it out next time I go.
Very cool. Reps negate perfection. And I used to think about that in basketball. Like if I could just put in more time and energy and get more shots up, like I don't have to sit there with the conscious competence of biomechanics of like my feet, the force transfer, like through the arms, through the follow through. In doing so many reps and outlasting other people that simply would rather go do something else, I always thought like, I'm just going to outwork the competition. And then I've thought the same thing in podcasting. I'm like, man, like, it can't be perfect the first time. I'm going to misspeak. I'm going to fumble my words. I'm going to do something terrible that I'm going to have to apologize at some point. But man, it's like that bamboo that we talked about earlier. If I just keep making episodes and be consistent, eventually you're going to learn, you're going to refine, you're going to polish, you're going to upgrade the operating system. How is that related to product development for Blenders? Because on one end, like you can't just keep making a surplus of sunglasses where it's just like junk miles. But on the other end, it's like you can't just have one perfect product.
Right.
So it's like what goes into the decision making of like the products that you launch, and then also the fuck ups along the way.
Yes. So at the early days, we would basically just get around a table and we would make stuff that we thought was cool. We would make stuff that we would wear ourselves. And
who's we early on?
It was me, my business partner, even just like my circle of friends. Like we were all just kind of in touch with culture and kind of in touch with like the community around us. And, you know, my business partner at the time was a great designer. So he'd just do a bunch of mock-ups. And we had this Facebook group that we had. It was a private Facebook group. We had like 1,500 people in it. So we would just dump all these different mock-ups on Facebook and just let the community kind of like, you know, vote on which ones they liked. Yeah. And that's actually how we validated the market demand for blenders. Nice. At the beginning is we put out designs and people were like, oh my God, these are sick. How much are they going to cost? Where can I buy them? And we just kind of let that be like the early, you know, market teller if this is going to work or not. So that kind of gave us more confidence that we got something here. I'm not just crazy, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that kind of just spiraled off into like, just what are people wearing around San Diego, right? What do I like? And then as you get bigger, you have all this data, right? And then you start to realize like, okay, we're not everybody, right? The stuff I like is not going to be the stuff that everyone else likes. And then I make products, they flop, multiple products flop. And then you're like, you can't hit a home run every time. So we got to start building out lines and start surveying our customers and really understanding like what we're seeing with trend forecasting and things like that. That's where it gets a lot more complicated because we used to be so quick to market. We can see something and be like, that's it. I would go to Cross or a music festival, and that would be like a exploratory for me, where I would just see all the different trends, all the styles. I go back on Monday and be like, I saw this, and this. These are hot. Let's go on those, and then we make those in 3 months. Now we have to be a year and a half in advance, 2 years in advance, and this is a game that we're not really good at, right? That's not.
Do you find that with that time frame, you see something, it comes to comes to product launch, and it's kind of phased off its 100%, popularity?
100%.
Why do you guys lean into that time frame?
We have to now, you know, just from a supply chain perspective. We have all these different channels, and with the different channels require a lot more planning and ordering in different seasons, and that's you got to get on the main calendar. Mm-hmm. And it's just so funny because when you're small, all you want to do is get bigger, and you can't wait till you're a bigger brand. And then when you get bigger, all you want to be is smaller again.
Yeah.
You want to be the small startup little like,
Totally.
you know, company out of a backpack, because you're nimble, you can be scrappy, you can be super creative.
Sure.
You're not really a target yet. Now now we're a target.
Yeah.
Now we get lawsuits every week, brands knocking us off, and the problem is just gets so big.
Sure.
And it kind of sucks a lot of the creative energy and like the fun out of it. Right. And so this is kind of where I've been struggling over the last couple of years, is trying to adapt to this new style of play that we're at. And founders aren't good at that.
Yeah. The thing that's tough is, as a founder, usually it's like pretty common to be like, hey, what problem can I solve? Everybody's sitting on the couch with an idea, but you're the man in the arena. You're taking the leap. You're absorbing the risk tolerance. You're doing the thing. What's up with lawsuit culture? Is it somebody wears it and pokes themselves in the eye? Their eyes get issues from the lenses. Help people understand like what that looks like, because it's dangerous. It's frustrating.
It's predatory.
Yes. Great adjective.
It's very predatory. And there's not many things that make my blood boil more than this, you know, like, especially like knowing that like I put all my energy into this. I put my entire life into this. I built it into this, and you're coming after, you think it's now yours. You're going to, you know what I mean? It's this, like, I don't let my ego get in the way a lot. Legal is very difficult to tame the ego.
Sure.
Very difficult.
Well, because they're threatening your safety.
It's a personal attack on you. You know, your success is now my success.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the courts will always settle. Like, most of the time, these lawsuits are frivolous, they're predatory, but we settle. And
they just want money. They
just want money. And we've had so many over the years that have just been so frustrating. And it's just one of those things that like I said, like you miss those days when you're smaller, because you can just,
also that's not part of the original narrative. No. You're not sitting around the table with innovation and
because you're talking about all these complex problems versus creating opportunities for the brand, right? And so like we as humans and operators, we only get so much creative energy in a day. If I show up on Monday morning with 100%, 100% battery, my CFO comes and says, "Hey Chase, we got another lawsuit." My whole day about thinking about blue ocean abundance is now about red ocean, sharks.
Which is why you've talked a lot around the importance of 10,000 steps. How important is it to you and to the education of other founders, and also just stress management for most people, to be like, you know what, there's a lot of tension right now. I'm going to press the power of pause. I'm going to throw in a podcast or integrate some breath work, and I'm just going to go for a walk. And I'm going to allow that space to then allow the dust to settle, allow my emotions to come to a halt. And then it creates a little bit more clarity moving forward.
It's a good reminder. It's when you're on those walks, you got to like remind yourself, this is part of the process, right? They don't hate Chase. But it's just, you got to separate your emotions from the actual side of like of the problem, and just get in touch with just sunlight, steps, fresh air, right? I used to do that with surfing a lot. I just need to go get wet, get away from my phone, get away from technology, just be in touch with the ocean. And some of my most creative ideas will always come in those moments. So yeah, walking to me has become just like such a reset, you know? And I don't need to have all the problems solved when I'm walking. Just throw on a podcast, listen to music, just enjoy San Diego and all the things that it has to offer. And sometimes that is enough, you know, versus just stressing over shit.
What's your ability look like to compartmentalize, right? Because let's just paint a picture for people. Stressful conversation, CFO comes in, another lawsuit gets thrown at you, ocean goes from blue to red. You say, hey, I'm going to take some space for a second, I'm going to go get wet. Do you have the ability to kind of take that experience and put it into a file cabinet momentarily? But simultaneously, it's like you're still a human being. So you're talking to product development, you're talking about brand strategy, you're talking about lead generation. But then you get to the water and the boys are there. Do you bring that energy into that? Or do you have the ability to like have that line in the sand to be like, hey, that's over there, I'm going to be here now? Or do you allow yourself to kind of have that healthy contrast.
Yeah, I think there's two things to it. You know, one, I got a great group of friends, right, that are all like entrepreneurs as well. So we really lean into each other a lot, and we vent to each other a lot. Like we have a group chat. Those are my friends. I have another group chat, which is probably over like $1 billion in sales of all like the top founders in the industry, where we just share ideas and strategies and problems. But your friends sometimes know you better than you know yourself.
Sure.
Right. And so like kind of having a place to vent is super important. And it's not that you're dumping your problems on them. It's that they're going through similar shit and we can all relate, and then we can all have high five and go surfing together. So I don't try to compartmentalize that, because so much of our lives, like the businesses are so ingrained in our lives that it's become part of our lives, and we just accept that. I try to do a better job with family and like my girlfriend and things like that, because that's more personal, you know, and I'm trying to get better at that. But I really struggled a lot when I was like doing everything. The sales of the business ran my life. So if I would wake up and I'd look at sales, if we weren't at a certain number by 9 a.m., my whole day was ruined. It ran my happiness. It ran my mood.
I've been there. I get it.
And I've unplugged myself from that now. You know, like looking at the stock market every day doesn't do you any good, because it's always fluctuating, it's always changing, and it's over the long period of time. I don't do that anymore. So I've gotten much better at that. But yeah, I think you need that support group, you know, and all the big problems that would happen in the office, I think I did too much of absorbing all that and not being transparent with the team of what I was actually dealing with backstage, almost to a point where like I was 1 degree away from full blown, like going off the rails, like full blown depression. Like that was like last year for me. I had to step down as CEO and hire a CEO because it was too much. And the team didn't understand how much I was dealing with backstage. And they were just like, dude, why don't you give us this insight? We had no idea, but I was trying to protect them from all the things that I was dealing with backstage. Yeah. Because I thought I didn't want to like lower the morale, or, you know, and
sure.
That created a lot of openness, a lot of like connection between the team on a deeper level, because they do care about me. I care about them. Like we're not just a corporate brand, right? Like we're all friends. We all are in this together. We're all kind of riding this wave, and I have an obligation to put them in the best position for success too, you know? And like, that's why I show up. I don't need the money. I don't need to do it the way. I'm not doing this because I want more money. I'm doing this because I want to see them build their careers. I want to see their dreams fit inside my dream, you know? And
it's a transition for sure. I think I'm going through that right now.
Yeah.
And I think early on it was like, ALLSMITH, I had to hold on to it so tight.
Yeah, same.
And when you do this, you can't really hold on to that much. And so the process now in 2025 is like, can I loosen that grip a little bit? Oh, wow, we can actually hold a lot more within this container than we can this. But for you, from a protective standpoint, you talked about the predatory nature of brand development. And there is a little bit of a protective instinct that sneaks there of like, man, if I do this, now you're surrendering control, trust, honesty, transparency. And they always say, be careful getting to know your heroes. Now they're going to get to see what it really takes to run a brand, as opposed to the forward-facing Blenders billboard. This is super sexy all the time. How's that journey been for you to deconstruct the ego a little bit, right? Because being disruptive isn't just in the marketplace. It's with self. And taking that ego that allowed you to be so successful going from A to B, but then realizing if you want to go from B to C, that ego needs a different tone, different personality, which is more letting go than holding on.
Yep. And it goes back to perspective, right? I mean, like you look at life through one lens sometimes, and the last couple of years, especially as we've gotten acquired, right? Like there's pre-acquisition and then there's post-acquisition life. And pre-acquisition life it was like, okay, cool. Like you've built this great business. You love what you do. You own 100%. You have a good team behind you. Now you join a superpower, you know, and now you have $1 billion brand that is investing in you to deliver future results. I didn't understand the difference between that and the actual reality of the pressure that was going to add to my life. And you're judged by financials. You're judged by a balance sheet. You're judged by numbers. And so much of Blenders was never financial. It was just all instinct, all passion, all lifestyle, all energy and community, right? Now your success is built on numbers. And so front stage, I was going out we had Dion, we had all these things happening, and people were like, Blenders, you guys are killing it. Great work, great work. And we were doing meaningful work. But backstage, I was being told, not good enough. Your numbers aren't there. We need more from you. We need more from you. We need more from you. So I was living two different lives.
Yeah.
Am I successful or am I not successful? Because I'm being told I'm not successful over here, but I'm being told I am over here. So I had to really reshape my perspective on knowing that I am worthy, that I am doing good work, and we're going to be a forever brand, and most brands don't grow 50 years in a row. And if we have a couple down years, it's okay, right? And I lost that. I lost complete sense of that. So it's like so much to a point where like I needed to go back to San Diego State to speak to students to remind myself that I was still valuable, that I was still worthy. Talk about imposter syndrome, massive imposter syndrome, going through this like identity crisis, right? I'm still kind of coming out of it. Like I'm kind of like refoundering myself now.
Yeah. No, I mean, what you're saying, I mean, I feel my eyes getting watery thinking about it because I've been there.
Yeah.
Like I don't know to the volume of having all those eyes because the numbers were shown of like, man, Dion's selling $2 million worth of blenders in a day. And like social media, you know, shows all that. But then behind the scenes, you're getting pressure. Like what was the acquisition process like? And what was it like where, you know, you were ready to take that step, but then simultaneously, similar to, I don't know if you've seen the show Super Pumped about the founder of Uber.
Love that show.
I have to rewatch it like all the time because it has to be a reminder of like the tension that comes with being a founder. But what changed when you're now open to the opportunity of taking on investment money? And how did that kind of change the creativity and the philosophy of the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's so much to unpack here, but I think for, you know, early on, it was like, I want to create a brand that's meaningful for my generation. I want to create something that resonates with the community in San Diego. I want to create something that, you know, I'm deeply passionate about, right? It was never about starting Blenders to make money. It was never about starting to sell. But about 8 years in, things started to get really real fast. And I owned 100% of the business. Going back to legal, I was in Tennessee speaking on a panel and I opened up my email and boom, our first lawsuit comes in. It was a $5 million lawsuit. And I'm sitting this and I'm reading this email before the panel and I'm like, holy shit.
Shifts your entire energy before
this
you
could
speak.
be all gone tomorrow. And so I started to get like pop my head above the weeds here and kind of realize like, okay, we're doing 30 to 40 million in sales. Like, Chase, you have an asset here. This thing's starting to get some steam and you better get your arms wrapped around it. You got to start thinking bigger picture. What are you doing? You know? So I had to kind of and we had a ton of inbound stuff coming in. I had these investment bankers calling me, these private equities calling me, showing up at my door, wanted to schmooze me. And it was overwhelming. And I had to like reset the table of like, okay, why did I start this? What's the purpose of like, why did I begin this in the first place? I want to build a generational brand here. I want to build a brand that's going to be around for 50 years. I want to build a brand that my kids are going to wear one day, right? So I needed to either go, I could either go left or right. Left was I can build this into a lifestyle biz and have fun doing it and kind of go up and down and maybe it fizzles out, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Or I can put ourselves in the best position to be a superpower one day and partner with the second largest, you know, eyewear company in the world. And that's what we did.
Who is it that you guys partner with?
Safilo.
Very cool.
So
congratulations, man.
Thank you, man. So it was just like we entered conversations with them. This was in 2019. This was before COVID. I mean, the whole acquisition process was as tumultuous as you could possibly imagine.
Sure.
You know, I learned a lot about that process, right? And we were really filling a gap for them that they didn't really have at that time. And they were really going to be adding support in areas that we weren't really good at, like product and manufacturing and optical, like distribution around the world and all these things. So it was peanut butter meets jelly of like, okay, we have needs that we can't get met on our own. We could do it, but it's going to take us a lot longer. And they have this transformation that they're trying to go through with like disruption and e-com and trying to position their portfolio in that direction. So we kind of became the golden goose.
That's great.
And the deal closed in June 1st, 2020.
Wow.
$90 million deal when the whole world was burning. Mm-hmm. And it was a bizarre feeling. Like, while everybody was losing their jobs and losing their lives and getting laid off, like, I just closed a $90 million deal. And
what was that feeling like for you, thinking about just the reflection of being labeled dyslexic, not being able to learn, kind of self-reflective on the early days, and then being like, wow, fast forward a couple decades, and here we are closing a $90 million deal. You don't hear that number unless it's the NBA or the MLB.
I don't think LeBron James even gets checks for night. Like I was 31 years old. I was 32. And, all of a sudden I'm put in an entirely unrelatable position to most people. And I'm still 5 years later, like getting in touch with this. It's still changed my life in so many ways. It definitely changed the relationship with like my mom. My mom had no idea what we were doing in sales, and she was worried about me entirely. My dad, on the other hand, was like, "Fuck yeah, you did it! Like this is what it's all about." And but yeah, it changed my entire perception of money. It changed my entire perception of just my identity. Now people, like, we were always so private, right? Blenders was never like, oh, we're flexing, doing this. Like, we just built a cool brand and let the brand do the speaking, right? Now it's public information. People know, people are now coming after you for certain things. You're getting pitched all the time for certain things. People want you to invest in certain things. Like,
you became you started as the chaser, and now you're the attractor.
Yeah. And I needed to like really get in touch with this whole thing. So I kind of just let it sit for a while. And it was like, almost because I did it, I was so scared to lose it. Right. So I was still like calling my financial advisor, like, can I afford large coffees instead of small coffees? Like, it was ridiculous, man. He's like, you can order whatever the fuck you want. Yeah. And like, success for me for a long time was, I want to go to a restaurant and be able to not have to look at the menu and just order what I want and just not care about the price. That's how I measured, like I'm moving up in life. Yeah. And then it was like, can I afford large coffees instead of small coffees? That's cool. And it's just like, it was this bizarre kind of like identity crisis of kind of figuring out like what life is like now, and you could see a lot of things go great for people when this happens, and a lot of founders go off the rails. Yeah. And like I said, that foundation is so important for acquisitions like of this magnitude, because
what's also cool to me, Chase, is that like Simon Sinek talks about it. If you have your why, you can accomplish any how. And the fact that in every iteration, one of my superpowers is seeing patterns and common threads. In every iteration of Blenders and of you've gone back to, why did I start this? Where did this come from? Curiosity, childlike mindset. And what's cool is like, sure, you've grown, but you haven't changed. The value system is still there. The core principles are still there. What people might see, the car you drive, the ideologies and different things might fluctuate a little bit. But in here, it remained consistent. What's allowed you to stay so grounded? What's your relationship with health, with fitness, with therapy, with different modalities to stay so rooted? And I saw you write about it, which is, when you have your health, you have all these different choices, you have all these different problems. When you lose your health, you have one important problem. What has allowed you to get those roots in the ground? Because inevitably that twister, that storm's going to come, that lawsuit's going to come. How have you always fallen back to your why?
I think just my overcoming adversity is at such a young age. Like, nothing was ever handed to me. I had to kind of earn everything I did, right? And starting from nothing, literally building this out of a backpack from $2,000, like, for my roommate. Like I was telling him earlier, I was like, if someone would have wrote me a check for $50K, I would have failed. Yeah. Because I wanted to have known how to operate with that money. I wanted to have known how to manage it. I wanted to have known how to spend it. So I think that like those scrappy beginnings really give you that humility and that just that groundedness that you really need. But also, like, I struggle sometimes to leave that, right? Like, I'm in this different like category now of, it's like, so to say that I don't like to be put in this category, but I am. How do I fully embrace that without letting it take over my, and how do I kind of toggle between this? Sometimes I feel like I'm still kind of operating as like the little kid over here, the scrappy kid that's like, not really grabbing my arms wrapped around this big new thing that I'm struggling with both worlds. And it's changed a lot just with my relationships with people, especially with my relationships with my family, my sister. I mean, in a lot of different areas, and my mom was kind of the mother that was like, oh my God, I'm scared for you, Chase. Like money, like, you know, money can do really bad things to people. And I just kind of learned like money makes you more of who you already are.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a jerk, you become much more of a jerk. If you're generous, you become much more generous. Right. And so not letting money run the table and catching myself in certain situations of like, sometimes you can use money as a way to like provide or contribute, but I don't ever want that to be the only thing that I do. Mm-hmm. I always want to contribute with my time, my presence, my energy, my, just being that guy that wants to be there for other people.
What's enabled you to still stay hungry? Right? Because the dude at the top of the hill is not quite as hungry as the dude that's climbing. Have you created a new hill in the sense of, it's not necessarily, at least from what I've heard, it's not necessarily about your climb anymore. It's about providing a pathway forward with this metaphorical machete for other people to climb and kind of follow that path to provide for their families and help put their kids through college. And for you to be like, hey, we've got some systems in place now that can be repeatable. I'll step in and continue with the vision, with the why, and kind of set the guardrails. But now it's about empowering others. It's more about leadership than it is about doing the thing.
Right. And it's fulfilling your obligation, And I when I shook that CEO's hand, I said, this is going to be the best deal you've ever made, and I mean that. And I want to show up. I want to deliver those results. I want to deliver a world where my employees' dreams fit inside mine. I want to see them build their own careers. I want to see them kick ass and continue to rise the ranks and buy houses and all these things. Like, I want them to have the same opportunity as me, And so that fills my cup. Like that really fires me up. I don't have to show up to Blenders every day. I really don't, but I choose to because I want to, and I still love what I do. And I still got a lot more in the tank. Right. But I'm kind of reaching that point where it's like, okay, what does this look like for the next year or two? Right. Like, I'll be fully liquidated at the end of this year. I don't want to ever lose my soul in building the business or letting the brand go to die if Chase leaves or whatnot. Like, I want to leave knowing that I did everything I could and I fought for this brand and I provided the best opportunity for other people. But for me, it's about continuing to like challenge myself. I'm a builder. I'm a creator. I'm a becomer. I know that that's part of my journey, and I need to be doing that. But at what point is it time to walk away? Mm-hmm. And I think that comes from, do I still have that fire in my belly? Do I still care on a deeper level? And until that's a no, I'm gonna keep showing up.
I love that. It's a conversation for another time. But I was very fortunate last week to spend a lot of time with a venture capital friend of mine. He's formerly the founder of the Honor Foundation, which creates a bridge for Navy Special Warfare, any special warfare really, to transition into civilian life. And he started in traditional venture capital. He's since kind of narrowed his niche into national security. But we had a conversation one time around, if you truly love your brand and you're able to build it as best you can, you end up being the bottleneck. And it's painful. It's a hard pill to swallow. I don't think you're there yet. But when that time comes, I'm excited to have that follow-up conversation, because the anticipatory anxiety of that is re-navigating entrepreneurship all over again, which is uncertainty, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, what's next. But it's also beautiful. It's opportunistic. Of every single time you knock on that door, the door-to-door sales, you're either preparing yourself to navigate rejection, or it could be the best knock you've ever had and the greatest opportunity or deal of your life.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a great point, man. I think I've definitely gone down that path many times of just trying to make sure that like you don't lose your identity in this process, and it's so easy to do that, But I forget what you were saying.
Just around when that time comes, if you really love Blenders, there will come a point where you are the bottleneck.
And I was that bottleneck for a long time. Like, there's this term called the founder's curse, where it's like a blessing and a curse, but it's where the founder does everything themselves, right? So much to a point where they can't let go. Yeah. Too much control. And I had that. I was packing orders for 6 years, man. I didn't want to give up packing orders. I ran social media up until almost up until we were acquired, because I was so particular on how I wanted it to look and feel, almost to a point where I was getting in the way, right? And every founder goes through that. It's really hard. This is a baby. This is your baby that you're like, you've birthed this baby.
Yep.
You're raising this baby. And as the baby grows up, you drop it off at school. You want to make sure it's cared for, and I struggled with that immensely. I'm good at that, but then I had to learn how to be a great manager, manage people, trust people. And I haven't had the best of luck with that. That's a skill set that I'm just not good at, managing people at all. So something that I'm working on, less control, more influence. How do you control through influence versus controlling everything?
Yeah.
That's like the new.
I'm going through that right now.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's a hard nut to crack. But that's kind of the space I'm in now, is how do I still influence without controlling the entire situation?
Yeah. No, I really appreciate the vulnerability and the insight, man. We don't rise to the level of our goals. You don't win by having better goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Yep. So true.
What was system implementation like for you? And how have you, curated that where you don't have to do everything and be boots on the ground all the time?
This goes back to, being a scrappy founder that loves finding creative ways to do things, trying to operate in under this bigger corporation that's more about decision making, more about approvals, more structure, more, enterprise speed, so to say. Those two things are very difficult, oil and water, right? And so the best I can do is create exactly what I want, what I want things to look like, and be very clear on my expectations and be very clear with my communication. And vagueness will get you crushed.
Dude.
And sometimes I'm
so true.
I can speak to my team in vague answers and not give them very clear direction. And so I've had to become much more cognizant of being much more assertive, clear, so they understand what I want, what I don't want, but also giving people the freedom within a framework to be able to do still be creative, right?
Not be a helicopter founder.
I don't want to be a helicopter founder, but I'm still finding areas and finding holes. And my personal life and my home life is so organized and so orderly, because that's just who I am. I can't have clutter. But the business is this whole other monster that is messy, and it's fucking changing, and there's all this shit everywhere. That's it's really hard to get the business as orderly as my life.
Yeah. And
I sometimes try to do that, and it's I come off as I'm micromanaging, or I'm so particular, you know, but it's just that's just the way my life operates. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's tough.
Jordan Peterson talks about that. You want to change the world, clean your room.
Clean your fucking room.
Make your bed.
It's all that shit starts at home.
Sure.
And that's my big gripe about surf culture, right? It's messy, it's sloppy. These guys don't take care of themselves. Their car looks like shit. Mm-hmm. They don't wash their car. They got shit all over their seats. If you want to know who you're hiring, just walk by their car and take a look inside their car. You can tell a lot about somebody by just seeing what their car looks like.
Love that. Dude, you gave a lot of great insight today.
I could talk all day, bro. Thank you for having me.
It was really cool to chop it up, and just to echo, the end of our conversation. Unexplained expectations are premeditated resentments. Be clear. Vagueness will get you killed.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's an expensive place to live. And there's no vagueness in entrepreneurship. There's no vagueness in becoming the best version of you. You got to be clear on what you want and go after it. And that is one of life's hardest things, right? Really being clear on exactly what you want.
Health and fitness, man, one of my favorite questions is, what do you want? Most people can't answer that question. Most people can't answer it for dating. They can't answer it for food. They can't answer it with travel, with adventure, with what they want to wear that day, which is why I think writing fills the gaps within our thinking, a journaling practice, a gratitude practice. And I specifically use that word practice because there's no right answer. You're exploring you. You're trying to create clarity for the life that you want to live, which is why with ALLSMITH, we title it Lifestyle Design. It is a practice. I loved that you echoed the concept around adversity, because we're either in adversity, just left adversity, or we're approaching adversity. Mm-hmm. And what is a smith? It's forging yourself underneath that anvil day after day, trying to refine and build something beautiful. We are all smiths. And so it was a pleasure to have you be a part of that journey, man.
Appreciate that, bro. Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
check me out on Insta. I mean, I guess, right? Instagram, Chase Fisher. Come by our office in PB if you're looking for some new shades or you just want to say what's up. Our door is always open. We're in PB on Cass and Diamond Street.
Cool.
You'll find me at the San Diego State basketball games.
Yay.
Go Aztecs, baby.
For real. That 2024 was so cool when they made it to the national championship. I'm still mad at my friend who played at UConn, and like we talk smack all the time because I was like, dude, that was such a special year.
Oh my God, man. So cool. So special. Like incredible. I still like relish in that, you know.
Shout out Brian Dutcher. I want you on the show. I want you in that seat.
Yeah, we'll get you on, Coach Dutch. Come on.
I'd love it. Cool, man. What's your website? Where can people purchase online and check out some shades?
Check us out online, blenderseyewear.com.
Cool.
Come by our store in PB if you're local. And yeah, this was awesome, man. So,
I love it, man. Thank you so much for giving us a peek behind the curtain. Guys, if you loved my conversation with Chase Fisher today, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time.